How's it going, everybody? We are talking about a simple topic today. It's going to be the difference between domain dependent strength and domain independent strength. Something important that you want to know so that you can make better training decisions and decide what your scope of training is going to be for you. Because up until this point, the whole idea of what strength means has kind of ubiquitously been gated by powerlifters, right? The golden standard for strength is how heavy your bench press, your deadlift, and your squat is. What we want to discuss today is an idea that has got nothing to do with exercise science or health and fitness per se. It's just a simple general transient concept that you can use to understand where and why you might be limiting your own scope of training and how that might be a little couple of steps removed from what you should be doing, how you should be defining strength training for whatever objective you have, right? Because if we are putting the message out there that powerlifting is synonymous to being, it's the golden standard for being strong, and we're kind of saying that that's what you do to get strong. We're kind of saying that strength training means lifting heavy ass weights, and where that logic will kind of begin to fail is when you realize that the definition of strength, how you want your strength manifesting, is going to be different for everybody. It's going to differ for everybody. I might want to get stronger for my combat sport. You might want to get stronger for a marathon that's coming up. Somebody else might want to get stronger for their dancing, right? There are all these different things, all these different ways in which we choose to express ourselves, and depending on that, what we mean by strength, how we define strength is going to change. So we have got all these different objectives, right? Like let's say you're a coach, different kind of people are going to come up to you. They want to get stronger for all these different kinds of activities. And if the idea that you have in your mind is that to get stronger you need to be powerlifting, then you will also come to the conclusion that there's only one way in which you can get stronger for all these different sports, and that's definitely not going to work. What's interesting about this is that even if 10 people have the same objective, like let's say 10 people want to get stronger for a marathon, or like let's say for a sport, 10 people want to get stronger for a sport. Even for the 10 of them, you will not necessarily use the same method of gaining strength. It's all going to depend on what's required, what the individual weaknesses are, so that those individual weaknesses can be covered up and these people can find individual pathways towards getting stronger, whatever that means for them. So the point here being that strength cannot be defined by one particular sport. Strength cannot even be defined by one particular goal. Even if a whole bunch of people have the same goal, the ways in which they need to get stronger can differ for everybody, because we can never assume the same initial conditions for different kinds of people. Different people start their journeys at different points in their athleticism, in their abilities. They have different environmental contexts, they have different ecological contexts, they have different kinds of weaknesses that they need to fill up. Even if they have the same goal, you're not really necessarily going to use the same method for them. And that's the idea of domain dependent strength versus domain independent strength. Powerlifting is definitely going to get you stronger objectively, but it's domain dependent strength, right? If you think about what powerlifting is, what you define strength in powerlifting or in lifting heavy weights, it's going to be constrained by the tools that you use, the tools that you're interacting with during that expression. So strength in powerlifting would not be possible if you were not working with a barbell, plates, weights, whatever it is, whatever tools, whatever things in your environment afford you the opportunity to get stronger for that particular domain. Your definition of strength is going to be constrained by that. Very simple explanation is that if dumbbells, barbells and plates didn't exist, then the idea of strength as proposed by powerlifters, as defined by the powerlifting community would not exist. So the whole strength that we are gaining here is afforded to us because of the existence of the tools that we use to get stronger, right? So strength in that domain is going to be constrained by all of these different things that afford you the strength. that afford you the opportunity to get stronger or make these training adaptations. So that's a domain, right? You're stronger in a domain. But if those things go away, if you are a strong powerlifter, but if you are, if you try to express your strength in some other way, like let's say we put you in an obstacle racing course and you do not do that well, if we put you in some kind of a martial art competition and you do not do that well, right, then you begin to understand that, then you really begin to kind of drive the point home that what you perceived as your strength was just domain dependent strength. It wasn't strength that's transient in nature. It wasn't strength that you can kind of apply wherever you want to. And if that's the whole idea that we have about strength, then you see how that kind of narrows down your scope of what training should be, right? You want to start training with the intention of getting stronger, and the only answer that you have available to you in terms of what is strength training, is powerlifting, is lifting heavy weights. Then you immediately start narrowing down of what the scope of your training is. You can definitely broaden the scope of training and make your strength domain independent, right? And it's basically this concept this analogy that I use of being in this clearing in the woods. You want to imagine a forest, and you want to imagine that you're standing in this clearing in a forest, and there are different ways leading everywhere. Your objective in training should be to be in this clearing in the woods for as long as possible, right? Your objective should be to keep building domain independent strength as long as possible, so that whenever you feel aligned with an objective that takes you in one of these directions, you're ready for it, right? And until you find that direction to go in, you're constantly preparing yourself more than you were doing yesterday, and you're constantly improving your domain independent strength by periodically hitting all different aspects of what it means to train your muscles and your bones and your tendons and yourself as a person, and not just do powerlifting in the name of strength training, right? We were at a point where it had to be, people had to understand that strength training is important for sports. Then we came to a point where we kind of try to understand that there are different ways to strength train. Strength training doesn't just mean lifting heavy weights. And now we are at a point where we got to understand that training is important for however you choose to express yourself. It's not going to be barred, limited to just people that want to play sports. It's going to be for everybody. The scope of training is that however you choose to express yourself, it can be a sport, it can be a dance form, it can be any physical art form. It can simply be that you're a housemaker and you want to get up every single day and show up for your work, for your job as exuberantly as possible. So whatever that choice of expression is for you, you can identify some of your weaknesses, you can identify some of your strengths, you can think about where you're coming from, and then you can build a training regimen for yourself, a strength training regimen for yourself that helps you to kind of express yourself better at however you're choosing to express yourself. So the whole idea, this concept of staying in the clearing in the woods, right? You want to be in the clearing in the woods